What's up everybody, Matt Moran here for another car review. This is the 2022 Toyota Tundra Capstone. So about the new Capstone trim for the Tundra. So the Tundra is all new already for 2022, and on top of it, just right after they revealed the new Tundra, they came out with this brand new Capstone trim, which is the new top trim for the Tundra. It's an ultra luxurious version that really raises the bar and competes with all the top luxury trucks out there. And so right up front there, you have the very strong styling you see here on these new Tundras, where it just made it a radical change over the old Tundra, but it really fits well with Toyota's current design language, and it just really gives it a muscular and aggressive look up front there, and really distinctive compared to a lot of the others out there as well, which I think is commendable. And so, you know, right up front there, you have those LED headlights, the nice like waterfall look for those LED DRLs, and they look great. And one of the main things here with Capstone that's very easy to remember is it's chrome everything. Everything is chromed out on the Capstone, and so that's really the big distinguishing thing here on the outside for the Capstone. So you'll see the grille is all chrome. You'll see the nice little chrome accents there at the lower part of the grille, and the chrome also extends onto these 22-inch wheels, which are exclusive here to the Capstone, and just look really nice though, especially here on the white color you have. And also you'll see the chrome mirror caps. You'll see there's chrome trim here for the door handles, also around the windows. You have the Capstone badge here on the lower part of the doors, and then out back, again, more and more chrome. You have those giant Tundra letters all in chrome. You have chrome portions there for the rear bumper. Even the exhaust tip has chrome on it. I mean, it looks really nice and expensive as a result. And this whole vehicle, by the way, also has a little bit more presence to it just because of these new Tundras being a little bit larger. So even though it's on the same size wheelbase as the last generation Tundra, it's about 4.7 inches longer overall, in addition to being a little bit wider and a little bit taller as well. And so all those things combined with the more aggressive styling to really give this thing an impressive presence, both whenever it's stopped and out on the road. It really causes you to take notice of it. There's just so many cool design touches with this truck compared to a lot of the others out there, which are a lot simpler with their styling. You know, I mean, even just like the ridges in this hood here with these massive I-Force Max badges, it's just very sculpted. Same thing goes with the sculpting here on the sides with the front fenders and how it flows into the doors, and then back up again with those big indentions you have on the rear bed area there, and it just all looks really cool. I also love those taillights there with the three little slits you have for each of them. It just is, again, distinctive and creative and unique when, you know, it's very easy to try and blend in this segment, and Toyota really decided to take the bold approach and stand out and do something different, and I really respect them for that. Also, while we're out back there, the bed here is a 5.5 foot bed, and that's all you can get here in the Capstone. They only come in the Crew Max cab configuration with the 5.5 foot bed. The bed is a tiny bit smaller than it was in the past generation, just by a tiny bit, but you'll see that it still is really nice, and especially here in the Capstone trim, it's really nice how you have the button there right in the tail light, and that drops the tailgate there, as well as also presenting a step there. It's very nice to not have to be kicking around under the bumper there to get the step to come out. It's all power, and it also has running boards that are power, of course, as well. But just a really nice, you know, touch to make it very easy to get into the truck bed here. And a really nice bed. You know, it has a power outlet, has lights, various tie downs, all those usual things you'd expect. And so, I mean, from every single angle though, I think that the new Tundra looks really great, and here in Capstone trim, I think it nicely stands out as well. But let's start it up and go for a drive. The Tundra Capstone has the same key as any other Tundra, and that is also the same as any other Toyota key, where just a plain plastic black key. Nothing too special. Honestly, at this price point, it'd be nice to see something a little bit nicer or unique here for the Capstone, but you know, still works totally fine, and it is keyless access, keyless entry, and push button start. So you usually just leave the key in your pocket. You don't have to worry about it, and just hit the engine start button here, and it starts right up. And since this is a hybrid, whenever you turn it on, it doesn't always kick on the engine right away. It's on now, but whenever I first hit the button, it kind of waited for a second there. And so that's one of the great things here, is that the Capstones come standard with the I-Force Max version of this twin turbo V6 to get with the Toyota Tundras here for 2022. And so it's the most powerful version. I'll get into all the power stuff here in a second, but you know, it's just very cool that, you know, when you turn this thing on, and it's, you know, kind of operating like a hybrid and can do all the kind of hybrid driving of rolling at low speeds and, you know, coasting down hills and all that kind of stuff. But just one, you know, unique thing whenever you turn this truck on. And if you're curious to hear about the interior in the Tundra Capstone, my wife and I did a full in-depth interior review on this truck, so I'll put the link to that above. You can go watch that if you want to hear all our thoughts on the Tundra interior and the Capstone in particular. But as far as if you are already familiar with the Tundra interior, the Capstone here basically just gives you these semi-aniline leather seats, which are super soft and comfortable. They're so nice. You also get this dark American walnut wood trim here, which is open pore and just feels really, really nice and looks great. You also have some unique ambient lighting here, and otherwise it's basically a fully loaded Tundra, you know, as far as everything else goes, and so that means it's a very nice place to be. But definitely check out that video for all the details. All right, so setting off here in the Tundra Capstone. So the first thing you notice about this truck, well, you know, I think the first thing I notice is the view over the hood here with, again, this sculpting of this hood, which is just so cool to look at. And another really cool thing is you have a head-up display here in the Capstone version. So you'll see that right over the hood there, which is great to have. It's a 10-inch head-up display, nice large, you know, display there, and really nice to have that. Other things, though, is that this truck feels really punchy. So I'm one of probably a few people at most who actually drove the new Sequoia before the new Tundra here. So this is my first experience in the Tundra here, but I'm familiar with this powertrain from the Sequoia, and it's very impressive. It's very punchy, and the really cool thing is with the iForce Max, you have the instant little bit of power from the electric motor that's sandwiched in between the engine and the transmission, and that gives you like an extra 48 horsepower and like 150 odd pound-feet of torque right off the bat. And so it means that, you know, even though it does have to go through the transmission and there still can be a little bit of a hold up with the transmission, it's usually just gives you a nice extra little bit of jolt of power right whenever you want it. And otherwise, the visibility is great here in the Tundras. You know, of course, you're sitting up nice and high, so great view forward. You also have a fairly thin A-pillar for a pickup truck as well, and so pretty easy to see around that. Great view out of the sides, and view out of the back is also very good. And if you want it to be even better, this one has the camera rearview mirror, which you get on these upper trims of the Tundra. So that's great. If you do happen to have people sitting in the back seat there in the middle, you won't have a blocked view with that camera view. And also, of course, you have all the other cameras. It has 360 cameras. It has, you know, various angles for the backup cameras. You also have trailer backup assist, which is actually a hands-free thing where it will line up the trailer for you and you know, really assist you a lot with all that. And that has camera views for the trailer and everything. I mean, all the cameras you could want here. And of course, again, these top Capstones get all that top tech in the Tundra here. So it's great that you have all of that. Another really cool thing here is the Capstones exclusively get the acoustic front window glass. And so, I mean, you know, not like I'm sure regular Tundras were noisy inside, especially the top ones, but, you know, it just means that it's nice and quiet. The Capstones also have an adaptive suspension and an air suspension, and so it'll do a really good job of soaking up bumps, and it's nice and smoother, even though we're on these 22-inch wheels with some smaller profile tires compared to regular Tundras. But so far it's nice and smooth. We'll continue to test that over plenty of potholes later on in this video, but overall so far, you know, it's just a really nice, quiet, refined, and smooth experience. But I'm going to go ahead and put it up into the Sport Plus mode that it has. It firms up the adaptive dampers and gets everything else with the engine and transmission into its sportiest setting. We'll also put the transmission into its S mode, which is its sportiest mode. And let's turn down onto this back road and see how it does. Here we go. Got a little bit of wheel spin, but it's holding me back because this road was just oil and chipped. But it still pulls like a freight train, this thing. That's what I love about these Tundras. They are so strong. This new iForce Max powertrain is one of my favorites out there. It is just so muscular and it just flies. You get a little bit of wastegate flutter from the turbos too, and just feels awesome. So it's a 3.5-liter twin turbocharged V6 engine. It has 437 horsepower and 583 pound-feet of torque, which does give it the most muscle in its segment outside of the, you know, Raptor and TRX and stuff like that. You know, this is the most punchy truck, even compared to like the Ford F-150 Power Boost, you know, hybrid thing that they have. And I mean, it's punchy. 0 to 60 time for these is gonna be around 5.7 seconds or so, which again, for a truck is very solid. You're not gonna miss the V8 unless you just really love that sound. But I think this twin turbo V6 also sounds awesome, which is another really cool perk of it. And so overall, it's just a great powertrain. And this 10-speed automatic too does a really good job of downshifting pretty quickly, so that it gives you the power you want right away. It just feels really, really nice. And also, it's worth noting we're on this little bit of a rougher road here that often generates some more road noise. And it's still really nice and quiet in here, so very impressed with that. But we're counting up some corners here, and let's see how the Tundra handles. I'm actually expecting this to be the best handling version of the Tundra, since it has the lowest profile tires and the adaptive dampers on it here. And I mean, you know, this thing still weighs almost 6,200 pounds, but you know, it handles itself really well, honestly. Body control is very good. It's nice and flat. You know, for a truck, this thing is doing a really good job, honestly. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with the handling, honestly. I would say it handles a little bit better than an F-150 in my opinion. I'd say it's pretty on par with the Ram 1500 that I reviewed a couple of years ago. And I think it actually does feel like it's a little more eager with its handling than the Silverados as well. Certainly better than the Titan. And so, yeah, I mean, it just handles really nicely, and I'm still in the Sport Plus mode here, which also stiffens everything up a little bit as well. But yeah, I mean, obviously I'm not going to review this like a sports car, but what I can say is that you're not going to have any complaints with the handling here in this truck. It honestly handles, it's one of the best handling trucks out there. And the adaptive dampers, also the fact they did a whole overhaul here with this whole platform and the suspension. It's got a fully boxed frame now. It has multi-link rear suspension now, and it has coil springs, so that really, you know, that and the Ram are the only ones that have that. So I mean, it's really going to give it the smoothest ride out there. And you know, as far as ride comfort goes, I will hit more potholes and see, but I would say that to me, this still feels like it's a tiny bit busier than the Ram 1500. I am going to put this up in its comfort mode and see if this damper soften it up a little bit more. But I just feel a tiny bit more judder from like the back end still a little bit compared to the Ram. I will continue to test that out, but the Ram in my mind was the best riding, most comfortable truck in its segment. I'll continue to test that out a little bit more and see how this compares. But this is certainly towards the top of the pack. Certainly feels better than an F-150 and a Silverado and Titan easily. So, you know, just kind of as far as how it ranks, it's either 1 or 2 in my mind. And so overall, just a very nice, smooth ride. It also still runs the same part-time four-wheel drive system as any other Tundra. So it's, you know, a little bit simpler than when you get like a TRD Pro, for example, you know, but it has all the different drive modes, so it'll custom tailor, you know, the four-wheel drive system and the behavior of the vehicle to whatever, you know, surroundings you're in. As far as towing and payload goes here for the Capstone, since this is, again, more focused on luxury than all-out hauling, it's going to have lower figures than a lot of the other versions of the Tundra that are, you know, more tuned for, again, the extra hauling and all that. So towing is about 800 pounds less than a limited trim of the Tundra here, which is surprising even compared to the limited, which is also very luxurious. This is a lot less. So towing is rated at 10,340 pounds here for the Capstone. Payload is 1485, and so, you know, I mean, again, nothing top of its class or anything like that, but you know, still should be more than enough for most people. You know, they're going to be towing a, you know, regular full-size 1500 truck, and so, you know, totally capable as far as all that stuff goes. And again, having, you know, it has trailer sway control, and again, all the other trailer assistance stuff means that it should still be, you know, very easy to tow in this thing. And I did tow in the Sequoia for reference. I know that's a little bit different, but same platform, same engine, you know, same kind of, you know, chassis underneath for the most part, and that was a breeze to tow with. And so, you know, you're not going to have any problems towing unless you're trying to max out those numbers, which I feel like most people usually aren't. So should be totally sufficient for, you know, almost everyone's towing. And now we're hitting some potholes here. I mean, it's still very comfortable. You know, it's not as good as like a unibody thing. Like, I still think that, like, honestly, like a regular version of like a Honda Ridgeline still rides a little bit better than this does, but it's still super smooth, and again, still beats the F-150, Silverado, and Titan easily. Merging onto the highway here. Okay, so the auto took a second there, but I mean, this thing, I love the way this thing pulls. It's just as satisfying as it was in the Sequoia. Easily the hot rod of the bunch as far as regular, you know, 1500 size trucks goes. This thing is so enjoyable to accelerate in. Just the way that 10 speed really keeps us in the meat of the power band as well, so that it really just pulls so strong the whole time and doesn't let up. It's really impressive. By the way, that peak torque for this engine comes on at like 2400 RPM. I mean, the red line is like 5900, so I mean, we're not talking about a huge power band, but still, I mean, very early on you get that peak torque of almost 600 pound-feet. I mean, it's just crazy that how powerful this thing feels. It's truly impressive. But we're out on the highway here, so I'm going to turn on the adaptive cruise control system that it has, which does have the lane tracing assist feature, and so we're going to set all of that here. So we're going around a corner here with the lane tracing assist system on, and I'm just hovering my hands on the wheel here for the most part, and it's doing a pretty good job here of centering the vehicle. One thing I really liked about it is that it did buzz the steering wheel whenever it was losing track of the road lines for a split second there a minute ago. And so that was really nice because it, you know, gave me an alert that, hey, I need to take over immediately. It wasn't an annoying ding or buzzing kind of, you know, sound. It was just vibration on the steering wheel, nice and subtle, but gave me the information I needed. Thanks to the head-up display also informing me exactly what was going on. That was great. But I mean, you know, these roads are a little trickier with the way, you know, the markings are and stuff. but it's a really good job. So we're going around another corner here. See how it does around here. We're also slowing down for some traffic a little bit. And it's doing a really good job. Now, you know, the one thing, if you are shopping in these ultra luxury trucks, you will probably know that Ford offers Blue Cruise in the top versions of the F-150 now. You can also get Super Cruise here in the newest versions of the GMC Sierra. After using Super Cruise a lot in the Escalade and the CT6 from Cadillac and stuff in the past, Super Cruise is top notch. And so, I mean, this system is nice. It certainly will take a little bit of the fatigue out of your driving, but you still have to have your hands on the wheel. And the truly hands-free systems are really a revelation, because it's amazing how much more relaxed you are when your hands are just resting on your lap and not on the wheel over several hours of driving. But, you know, so I still don't think this is the best as far as highway driving goes. But it still is very nice to have those assistance features. And, you know, also Ram is in the same boat. They don't have any kind of hands-free thing yet either. So this isn't only Toyota's, you know, shortcoming, but it's just a shortcoming nonetheless. But otherwise, I mean, of course, being the top version of the Tundra here, you have all the other safety tech with, you know, blind spot monitoring or cross traffic alert, you know, every single thing, automatic emergency braking, all those things you can think of. This has all of that as well. And so, I mean, there's no shortage of safety tech here in this. It's just truly a first world problem to not have that hands-free functionality like the others offer. One other thing that I really am impressed with this vehicle, especially when you're out on the highway, is how the engine just turns off much of the time. Whenever you're coasting, if you're not, you know, actively accelerating in this thing, it's going to be having the engine off a lot of the time. And so it's really cool. I got to sample that a little bit more in the Sequoia whenever I did a little bit of a longer highway drive in that. But it's crazy how, you know, it's also so refined that you don't even really notice it working in the background. You don't hear the engine kicking on. You don't hear it turning off either. You know, whenever it's just kind of coasting at those very low RPMs, you don't even really discern the difference between it being off and on, which really shows you just how refined this truck is. But it's just a really cool touch. And so, you know, if you are someone that's, you know, coasting a lot, you know, especially like here in Western Pennsylvania, very hilly, so all these downhill sections, you know, so I'm just coasting with the engine completely off. And so that should give this a little bit of a edge as far as fuel economy goes compared to some of the others that can't do that. And so just another really cool thing here of these new Tundras. But anyway, thanks to Toyota, I'm going to have the new Tundra here for an entire week. So I'm going to drive around all over the place, and I'll come back and give you guys my final real-world fuel economy, as well as my thoughts on the pricing, how it compares to its competitors, and anything else that I also noticed during my week of driving here. Alright, so I've been driving the 2022 Tundra Capstone for a week now, and it's been a really nice thing to live with. Obviously, I mean, it's a $77,000 luxury truck. I mean, it's going to be very nice to live with, aside from, you know, parking it in tight spaces and things like that. But having all the cameras, you know, made that a little more bearable as well. But you know, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed this engine in particular. It's nice and strong, tons of power, and there's even a rainy day where I was climbing up a hill, which was a tiny bit slick, but I mean, this is still the middle of summer, and it still was actually getting a little bit squirrely on me and wagging the back end around a little bit, because it's just a lot of power whenever you're in two-wheel drive mode here. And so anyway, I only had two little complaints with this vehicle. The first is the sound system. It's a JBL 12-speaker stereo, the same thing you can get as a normal upgrade option on, you know, most of the trims of the Tundra here. Nothing special. And compared to all the other luxury trucks, which have way more speakers, 18 or 19 typically, and, you know, a higher branding than just JBL, that was the one deficiency. That, I mean, it sounded fine, you know, if you're okay with just normal, you know, truck stereos, I mean, it's fine, you know, but when you're spending $77,000, fine shouldn't be what makes the cut. You know, I feel like they should have invested in a better stereo system for this vehicle than what they do have, you know, and that's just one area where all the competitors are better with their stereos at this price point than this is. The only other thing too that I also didn't love about the Tundras here is the 10-speed automatic. It's usually pretty good, but every once in a while, especially when I'm starting from a stop, I do feel the like 1-2 beat before it finally like gives me the right gear or whatever, so that I actually get the power I'm looking for. So here we go. 1, 2, there it is. Like, and you can do that basically on demand every single time with this vehicle. I'm not sure why, but it's like a very clear lag, but it's only a lag whenever you're starting from a stop, I've found at least. Whenever I'm up and running here, I mean, the engine was actually off there, and I put my foot down, it immediately kicked it on and gave me power seamlessly. So it's really well set up in most instances. It's just for all the stop signs. If you have a lot of stop signs, a lot of red lights, you're constantly accelerating from a stop, even a rolling stop, it still has this lag. They can get on your nerves a little bit. So, you know, I don't know, you know, what the deal is with that. I'm assuming that's part of this hybrid thing, but I think there was people saying that even just the regular non-hybrid version with this 10-speed does the same thing. So I think it's a transmission thing. And I was hoping the hybrid would maybe cover that up and make it more minimal, but since the hybrid power also has to go through the transmission, that's what makes me think the transmission is the bottleneck here. It's trying to figure itself out, and it just takes a couple of seconds there to do so. It just doesn't give you an immediate punch. And there's been a few times where I've even been sitting at a stop sign and I'm like hitting the gas, and people behind me probably think I'm an idiot because I'm sitting there for a few seconds needlessly before it finally decides it wants to start going. Again, these are first world problems, not a huge deal. But one thing where, compared to the others that I've tested, I've not tested all the direct competitors to this. I haven't tested the power boost thing from the F-150, and the e-torque V8 versions of the Rams have been totally fine in my experience. The regular V8s of the GM stuff has been fine as well. So, just one other little observation. One other thing too, in just the past 2 days that this truck does is it gets confused with the lane keeping assist, and there's been twice now where it's nudged me like I'm going off the road, but I'm literally driving straight down the road, but it's like, whoa, what are you doing? Let's inch you over. And it's like nudging me, and I'm like, what are you doing? I'm driving correctly. So, if you're not in love with those systems, I would just suggest turning that off, because it's not great with its execution still. And that just, again, highlights the glaring lack of tech compared to the F-150 with the Blue Cruise. Now it's hands-free, and GMC now going to be offering Super Cruise in the Sierras. But the last two things I mentioned here about the Tundra are the fuel economy and the pricing and how it compares to its competitors. So first off, fuel economy. Unfortunately, that's another area where I'm kind of disappointed and surprised. So these look really nice on paper with this hybrid setup. They're rated at 19 mpg in the city, 22 on the highway, and 21 combined. Really solid numbers that are only beaten by the F-150 with its power boost thing. That does 23 across the board, so that gives you a couple extra here and there, and is clearly the winner as far as fuel economy goes in the full-size truck segment here. But this is the close runner-up, and it is much better than the Ram, better than the GM trucks by a long shot, since they have no hybrid whatsoever. So just take this in the context that this is still going to give you better fuel economy than most others aside from that F-150 in that specific power boost version. But in my experience here, so I've driven this vehicle 133 miles now. I've been getting 15.5 mpg. And it was the kind of driving that hybrids usually excel at. It's around town, suburban, 35 mile per hour driving, a little bit of stop and go, but no, gridlock traffic or anything. Also no highway cruising, but I was noticing, like I'm currently coasting down a hill, the engine is off completely. And I was like, man, I'm gonna get such good fuel economy this week. This engine's not even on half the time when I'm going down a hill. It's gonna be really efficient. And then I'm like, why am I getting only 15 mpg? But that's what the onboard computer is telling me here. The range is impressive. I mean, because of the nice big tank, I'm only just barely sitting under 3/4 of a tank still, and I still have 293 miles of range, even after doing 134 miles. So, I mean, that's solid. And I mean, I've coasted all the way down this hill, not a single ounce of gasoline burned. So I don't know why I'm not getting better fuel economy. I mean, partially I can blame a tiny bit of that because I idled for a few minutes filming this interior. So, okay, we can round it up from 15.5 to 16. That still is 3 mpg less than the city rating, and I didn't do just straight city driving. And I mean, in my typical press vehicles, whenever I'm driving around, I usually get 1 to 2 mpg less than the city rating. So this isn't wildly out of range. I'm 3 mpg less than city essentially. But, for a hybrid, I just usually, with all the coasting and all the hills around here and stuff, I just figured that I would, be able to do a little bit better here. And I'm not hammering this thing all the time. I mean, I'm enjoying the boost and stuff, but it's not like I'm, drag racing everyone from a red light or something. So, I don't know why it's as low as it is, but that's my observations. Your mileage may vary. The last thing that I mention is the pricing here of the Tundra, and that is one area where they really did a good job of matching the others, because basically this and every single thing that it competes with, it's very comparable. And whenever you configure all the other trucks exactly the same, they are basically the same exact $77,000 across the board. This one is $77,495 to be exact. And I think that, you know, it has everything basically you're expecting out of, you know, these other trucks. The only thing that, you know, some of them have, you know, a few features here and there that are slightly better than this. And this also has some stuff that's better than the others. This has the bigger touchscreen. You have the cooled rear seats, which I don't believe the GM trucks have. And there's a few other things that, like, you know, this also sacrifices. Like I said, the stereo isn't as good as all the competitors, so they have that leg up. And, you know, depending on which one you go for example, like the F-150, that power boost, you know, does have the Pro Power on board thing, so you have the extra plugs in the bed there, and you have a little more power output there with the F-150s, but they also have a smaller screen in the middle here than the Tundra does. So that's the trade-off there. The F-150 though does offer a massage seat, which is one key thing that you cannot get here in this, but the F-150 is the only one that offers that. None of the others do either. So not a huge demerit here on the Tundra with that, but some of the switchgear in the F-150 and the Ram is metal versus this being all plastic and, you know, a little bit cheaper feeling in that regard. There's some give and take here, but essentially I would say that this is very competitive with most of the others out there. And really, you know, unless you're someone who really wants to have the best stereo possible, that's really the big drawback, I think, of this. Aside from that, the Capstone does a really good job of matching all the others. But I think it could go even further because, you know, you look at, like, this is actually competing with, like, an F-150 Platinum, not the Limited, which is like $85,000. And by the way, that F-150 for that Platinum that this does compete with at 77 grand doesn't give you the 22-inch wheels. It's 20s. That is one key difference of this. But they're basically all 77. The only other value, if you are, you know, trying to shop and save a few bucks here, you know, in this price segment, is that if you go for stuff like the Chevy Silverado, the Chevy Silverado does save you some money. So does the Nissan Titan, but you can't get a Nissan Titan that's nearly as nice as this. And the Titan is kind of a distant, you know, competitor these days, compared to everything else being so new and fresh and impressive. But as far as the Silverado goes, you know, the high country version does have, you know, the new interior for 2022. It's very close in screen size to this now. Very nice inside on those as well. And that's 73. So if it's worth saving, you know, $4 grand or so, you know, for the Chevy, you know, I think that seems like a very nice truck as well. I've not reviewed the, you know, refreshed new Silverado, so I can't say for sure. You know, it doesn't have the coil springs like this does. That still does a leaf spring setup. Only the Ram can match you there, but the Ram doesn't offer the hybrid, so you're going to get worse fuel economy in the Ram. So there's lots of little trade-offs. Every truck has its own little niche where it'll find its certain buyer that's looking for its unique qualities. You know, it just comes down to whether the Tundra's unique qualities are the ones that work for you, and the things the Tundra lacks are the things that you don't worry about, you know, missing out on. So that's really what it comes down to, you know. So no matter how you look at it, though, the Tundra is very competitive. It's a solid vehicle. You know, I really enjoyed my week in it here, and I think it is still one of the best riding trucks. Having the coil springs, I think that, you know, that really puts it above most of the others, again, aside from that Ram as far as ride quality goes. I still don't think the ride quality is as good as the Ram, though. The more that I drove this truck, the more I got a little more jitteriness out of it than I believe I remember having in the Ram. So that's the only thing, but again, it's still, I think, much better than the F-150, better than the GM stuff, you know. So I think they did a really good job here on the ride and with everything, and it's just a very, very nice truck for sure. But anyway, that's all of my thoughts here on the Tundra Capstone. Let me know your thoughts on it in the comments below. Huge thanks to Toyota for providing me here with this new Tundra to review for you guys today. And yeah, thank you all very much for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Take care.